My 5 biggest mistakes cost me millions of dollars for my agency. And so even though I've made $2 million profit with my agency so far, my biggest regret is I could have made so much more if I avoided all these mistakes in the first place. So today I'm going to be breaking down each of these mistakes so you can avoid them, so you can save yourself all the time, energy, and headache that I had to go through. So with that being said, let's get into it. My first mistake was not surrounding myself with the right people with similar goals. And I know that's corny, like, oh, why can't you just figure this out by yourself? But here's the thing, I tried. Like literally summer 2019, my first year trying entrepreneurship and running an agency, I tried to go the free route, right? Where I would just watch a bunch of YouTube videos, read a bunch of books. And because I didn't have any entrepreneur friends, I didn't really have anybody to bounce ideas off of or learn from. So I just tried it all by myself. And so I tried cold emailing, didn't work, tried cold calling, eventually landed a couple in-person sales meetings. And then after every single sales meeting, I would get ghosted literally every time. And so eventually I kept grinding and I landed 3 free trial clients. But the thing was, because I didn't know how to deliver my clients' results, because I was never taught, I didn't have friends to teach me, my clients saw no results, and ultimately I never got paid and I got dropped. And so that was my first experience ever trying to run an agency. And as you could tell, it didn't really work out for me. And so it wasn't until a year later where 1, I actually hired a mentor, and 2, I was put in this iMessage group chat with 3 of my closest entrepreneur friends, and they all basically told me all the insider knowledge on what I was doing wrong. And I would have never figured it out through YouTube or books or just trying it all by myself. And so that was the first thing I realized a whole year into entrepreneurship, is entrepreneurship really is a game of packs. Like no entrepreneur you see to this day works alone. They usually have a ton of entrepreneur friends bouncing ideas off of each other. And even today, I have a whole group chat in Chicago with over a dozen high-level entrepreneurs or influencers, all spreading ideas and all giving each other the secret sauce so that we could continue growing together. And so I remember when I first started, I didn't know who to trust online with all these gurus courses, and I didn't have any entrepreneur friends. And so luckily for you, I'm hosting a free class on Thursday, breaking down exactly how to make 10K a month through what we call the revived agency model, the new model that's actually working this year. And so that way you could still learn from people ahead of you without having to pay for courses. And most importantly, by the way, is when you sign up for my free class, you also get access to my free school community as a bonus. That way you could actually connect with other motivated entrepreneurs in your same position or ahead of you, so you guys can all network, all mastermind, all spread ideas, so you can ultimately grow together. All right, so if you're interested, just sign up with the link in my description. And again, once you sign up for the free class on Thursday, you get access to my free school community as a bonus. But let's keep going. My next mistake was not putting myself in my prospects' shoes. So think about it. When I was cold emailing my prospects, why don't you think I got much responses? It could have been the email, it could have been the subject line, but to be real, like I said, put yourself in your prospect's shoes. If you got a random email from a stranger pitching you $1,000 to $3,000 a month for social media marketing services, would you really respond to that email? I don't know about you, but hell no for me. So why would it be any different for your prospects? These are real people. Same thing with cold calling. If you got a random phone call from a stranger trying to pitch you thousands of dollars per month for social media marketing services, would you really be interested, or would you hang up the phone? Again, for me, I'd probably hang up the phone. So again, why would it be different for your prospects? And so a whole year later, I discovered that you could actually message prospects through Instagram. And so I tried it through an agency page, but then again, when I put myself in my prospect's shoes, again, think, if you got a random DM from an Instagram page with just a company logo with a bunch of services on its feed, would you really respond to that DM, or would you leave it on read? Again, we'd probably leave it on read. And then I tried sending messages through my personal account, but then again, I thought, put yourself in your prospect's shoes. I sound like a broken record, but if you got a random DM from a kid who looks like he could be your friend from high school or college, would you really respond? Again, one last time, probably not. You're just gonna be friend zoned because you look like a kid and you're not gonna be taken seriously. Well, so what is the answer for trying to put ourselves in our prospect's shoes? Use what we call a personal brand Instagram page, where you're still showing your face, but you're posting 3 types of content: connection, value, and proof. Connection is where you talk about things in your life, what you struggled through, your story, etc. Value is where you solve your target avatar's problems in your content, and proof is show client results. And if you don't have client results yet, just skip that. Just do connection and value. And so once I set up my personal brand Instagram page, it didn't take that long. I only put up 9 pictures on my Instagram feed, and that was it. And then I just looked up some entrepreneur captions on Google. Now today, you could probably ChatGPT some captions. And then when I started reaching out to prospects with a personal brand Instagram page, I landed my first $2,000 client within 3 days and hit 10K a month my first month, all because I put myself in my prospect's shoes, and because my prospects actually respected me from my personal brand Instagram page, that's when I started getting deals. So when in doubt, always think, what is your prospect thinking? And that's how you're able to work around all the mistakes and all the roadblocks you're about to face when you're trying to land clients. The next mistake I made was hiring too fast. More specifically, hiring a sales rep to close all my sales calls for me. So back in the early of 2021, my agency was already making 20 to 40K a month profit consistently. And so I thought, okay, we're already making money. And so to get to 100K a month in scale, I just have to hire as many team members as possible. And so the biggest thing taking up my time at that point was sales calls. And so I was like, why not? Let's hire a sales rep. And so the thing was, I didn't fully master sales at that point. As you see today on TikTok and Instagram, I close $6,000 deals every single day, but that wasn't necessarily the case in early 2021. And so when I was trying to hire a sales rep, one is most of the best sales reps require great lead flow. We're talking like at least 6 to 8 qualified sales calls a day. And if you can't do that, they're probably going to drop you and leave you for somebody else. The best sales reps in the world back then weren't even considering working with my agency because I was only making 20 to 40K a month and I wasn't booking as many sales calls as I do now. And so obviously because no good sales reps wanted to work with me, I had to work with more beginner sales reps. And so the thing is with beginner sales reps, you can't really teach them your sales process if you haven't mastered the sales process yourself. Because even if they're a good sales rep, your offer, your messaging, your objection handles is all going to be very, very specific to your specific service. And if you haven't closed enough deals yourself, you haven't learned the nuances and the different objection handles and the different things that your prospects are looking for just yet. And so because I didn't know all those things and I didn't master all those things, when my sales rep was taking all the calls for me, we were actually on the decline. And not only that, I was in denial. I was like, okay, maybe I got to work on my lead quality. Maybe cold DMs isn't the way to go. Maybe I should be posting more on Instagram. And so I was looking at every single scenario instead of just facing reality and understanding I shouldn't have hired a sales rep just yet. And so the second I dropped that sales rep, my agency started scaling again because I started getting better and better at closing. I started closing way more deals, higher ticket deals, raised my prices, and ultimately that's when we finally scaled to 100K a month and beyond. Was instead of me trying to outsource too early, I was still in the battlefield trying to improve and continue growing my skills. So basically I always say, just make sure only hire what you've mastered. If you haven't mastered closing, don't outsource to a sales rep. If you haven't mastered appointment setting, don't outsource to an appointment setter. If you haven't mastered content, don't hire a content agency yet. If you haven't mastered the basics of editing, don't outsource to an editor yet. Like any basic skills in business, do not outsource until you fully master the fundamentals. And then when you master the fundamentals, now you know what to actually look for when you're hiring people to outsource to. And this leads me into my next mistake, is making the wrong hires. So a couple of my first hires was a virtual assistant to send DMs, DM setters to handle my Instagram DMs and book calls, and number 3 were sales reps to take my sales calls. And so my biggest mistakes in each of those 3 categories is, one, for my first virtual assistants I ever hired, they weren't listening, they would make the same mistakes twice, and ultimately, like if I wasn't keeping an eye on them, they would slack off. For my appointment setters, very, very similar. They would make spelling mistakes. They wouldn't read and react in the DMs. They wouldn't respond to my leads fast enough. And then finally, number 3, for sales reps, they were kind of like robots. Like they would just say word for word the scripts. They didn't have good tonality. They didn't have good charisma. And ultimately, they couldn't think on their own. As you can see, a common pattern for almost all 3 of these hires is they weren't A-level players. They couldn't think on their own. They couldn't make judgments on their own. And so once I made that a rule, that I have to hire people better than me, meaning for my virtual assistants, they need to know more than me and work harder than me. That means for my DM setters, they have to be able to respond faster than me, and they have to be able to read and react better than me. And then finally, number 3, for my sales reps, they have to be able to close more deals than me, and they have to be more charismatic than me, right? If they're not better than me, or bare minimum can think on their own, you're wasting your time at that hire. Why? Because the constraint of your business is still you. Because if your team members still rely on you for all these commands and to be told word for word what to do instead of thinking on their own, then they're always gonna have to rely on you for the decisions. Let's say you take a vacation or you take a month off to travel, whatever it is, right? Your business shuts down or your business is on the decline. Compared to if you hire people who don't need you, who are A-level players who can think on their own, now if you take a vacation for a month, now if you take a month off, your business will continue staying at the same rate or grow even more without you. And so that's the level you want to strive for. And so that's what I didn't realize, was I thought I had to micromanage everybody and they had to be worse than me, but ultimately they have to be better than you for you to grow. So example, my sales reps are better than me. My DM setters can respond to leads faster than me. My video editors can edit way better than me. My virtual assistants can put in way more work and way more hours than me. So every person I hire, they are better than me at something. And that is the reason why my agency has been able to scale to 100K a month profit so fast, is because I had A-level players helping me and pushing me to the top. And so I know I've been talking about A-level players. So how exactly do you hire them? And so for non-skilled labor, I'm talking about tasks that don't require any thinking. It just requires actually doing doing the boring work. We're talking about sending outreach DMs, doing follow-ups, all the boring work that just requires your time. I usually hire virtual assistants from the Philippines for $3 an hour through Upwork. And then for more skilled tasks, we're talking about DM setting, we're talking about closing, we're talking about video editing. I usually go with referrals. So of course, this ties back into my first point of this video, where you had to make entrepreneur connections. And when you make those types of connections, usually at least one of your connections has a good referral for one of the hires you're looking to make. And if your connection doesn't know a specific hire, they could ask their own network. And then when they ask their network, then one of their connections could probably find a hire, and boom, they could give that hire to you. It's just a big, massive network effect that happens when you're able to have entrepreneur connections. And then one last key to hiring A-level players that I actually do to this day is I actually ask my own audience. I've actually found that my best hires have came from my audience because one, they edify me, meaning that they're low-key or high-key a fan of me, and ultimately enjoy working with me because they just want to be a part of my network. And so this gives you a little bit more power in the relationship. So one, you're going to get better prices compared to these people's normal clients. And number two, they're probably going to prioritize you more compared to their other clients because they're more a fan of you. And so I know you're probably watching this and thinking, oh, Renzo, that's so great. You have an audience, but I don't have an audience. And so this leads me into my next mistake. I wish I was posting on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube so much earlier. I started in 2019. If I was posting every single day on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, documenting my journey, I would have had at least 1 million followers or subscribers on all the different platforms each. And so I know you're watching this and you probably don't have an audience yet, which means just start today, because your future self, a year, 2 years, 3 years, even 4 years from now, like me, is gonna thank you if you started right now. And even if you don't wanna post on social media, bare minimum, take as many photos and as many videos as possible. Like even for me, I wish I had more photos and videos back then when I was still grinding and haven't made it. That way I could use that as my story, and more people would believe me in my journey and what I've been through. And so if you're a beginner right now starting a complete ground zero, you're in the best position, because now you could document the whole process from ground zero compared to people like me who are already established. And some people might not be able to relate with my journey right now at this current moment compared to you right now starting a complete ground zero. So you're actually at the advantage. So your next step is watching this video right here, where I break down exactly how I'm going crazy about Instagram right now. I've had 6 1 million view videos the past month, and I just hit 400K followers about a week ago. So get your pen and paper out, because some of the strategies I'm about to teach you cannot find anywhere else online or on YouTube. So again, I'll catch you in this video right here. Get ready for the sauce.